Hey folks, Jeff Salzman here, and welcome to the Daily Evolver. Today, I am visiting with Stephanie Lepp, who is the creator of a new podcast that I'm really loving. It's called Reckonings, and the theme of Reckonings is how do people change? How do people change their hearts and minds on the big issues of the day? And I think that is a very worthy inquiry, and I would like to welcome you, Stephanie Lepp.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yay. One of the things I love about your podcast is and I think I resonate with it because I'm doing the same thing, is that you're dealing with the hot issues of the day, from guns, to climate change, abortion, criminal justice, Trump, of course. And you're talking in every case with people who have skin in the game. They've been affected, so they're politicians, whatever they're doing, they're experts, and they've changed their mind on that particular issue. And I would actually even add a little evolutionary integral spin on it and say that you're inquiring on their growth stage, development growth. I mean, how they move from one view to one that's actually generally bigger and more inclusive. And so we could talk about that. But I think maybe let's just start with a little bit about Stephanie and how she got into all of this. And I'd love to know.
Well, thank you. Great to be here. Hi, everyone. I'll start with, you had asked me about my integral story. I love that question. I've never been asked that question. So I'm just going to start there. And, in thinking about how to even begin with that, I would say I've been aware of my consciousness and the way that my consciousness is evolving, I would say, from a very young age. I very vividly remember waiting for the school bus in second grade. I'd done first grade and I was through first grade, and now I was going to go to second grade. And I remember thinking, as I was waiting for the bus, I'm going to second grade now. Like last year, first grade, I didn't know anything. Like this year, I really know what's up. I'm going into second grade. I really know what's up. And after experiencing that kind of enough times, that sense of like last year, I didn't really know anything, but this year, I finally realized, you know what? I bet I'm going to have this experience again next year. And therefore, I probably don't know everything that there is to know right now that I am in third grade or fourth grade. And just had this realization like, wow, my mind is in a process of growing and expanding. And so that gave me a little bit of humility and I would say just awe at the way that our minds grow and evolve. And so that, then, I guess formally being introduced to, I think it was right after college, someone gave me, just based on whatever I was saying and thinking about, someone told me you really should read A Theory of Everything. And
this is a book, of course, by Ken Wilber. The Theory of Everything, yes.
Yes, so that was my first formal introduction to integral thinking, and I was very resistant to it.
Really?
And I was aware that I was resistant to it. Like I knew, like there's something here, but I'm not ready for it yet. It was like, why all of these taxonomies and why taxonomy at all? And you could just kind of hear green in there and. I was aware that I was resistant to it, but that left kind of a curiosity for me. But it's like I had to kind of come to it on my own. So, whatever, read the book, was resistant to it, and then just developed my own kind of worldview, which I called promiscuous pragmatic pluralism, which was basically just integral thinking, but not articulated or like very thoroughly or well researched or very sayable at all. So,
I just want to pause for a moment because I have to say, for somebody who's just pulling it together on their own, promiscuous pragmatic pluralisms, pretty good.
Yeah,
that pretty well says it.
Yeah, I actually did something similar with fractals, where I used to call them parallel manifestations at different levels of reality, until someone was like, Stephanie, there is an entire body of work around that, and such a word to say. It's like, oh, wow, so grateful. Anyway, so promiscuous pragmatic pluralism, which was really just my way of, yeah, the underlying question is under which circumstances, right? Under which circumstances is what you are embracing or holding true or useful or helpful or and so whatever, was a promiscuous pragmatic pluralist, still am, but ended up somehow coming back to a theory of everything, reread it, and yeah, it was a way I was thinking, but yeah, so much more thoroughly articulated, well researched, and sayable. And I have actually come back to that book and reread it multiple times, and it is just kind of the gift that keeps on giving. And it's the same copy actually that I have had for a long time, and I write a lot of notes in the margins. So it's this kind of like wonderfully meta thing to be like watching the way that my thinking has evolved about the way that thinking evolves. Right? So as far as but as far as how all of that connects to what I'm up to in my work, I am I actually don't even know how to articulate what I am anymore, but I'm a liberation artist. I'm a collective liberation artist. I am a maker of things, I would say.
Now, what's a collective liberation artist?
A collective liberation artist is me just being playful with the fact that I don't entirely know what to call myself, but a liberation artist, like a collective liberation artist is someone who makes things. No, I should actually take that seriously. Someone who makes things, art, I will call it, that liberates everyone, including the tyrant, because I do believe that until all of us are free, none of us are free. And so I am committed to liberating all of us. We are all in this together.
I love that about your podcast, where you talk about, now, how could I have compassion for a white supremacist? And, you sorted it out. Well, I can't really have compassion for what he does, but I can have compassion for where he's coming from, because you interviewed this former white supremacist who talked about his liberation and away from that thinking. And you reported back something that is not astonishing to integral thinkers, but people in the white supremacy movement don't think they're being evil and destructive.
You're right. Yeah.
They think they're actually righteous and fighting for God and good.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's an insight that is not easy for people who are gripped around, ideology.
Yes, and I would say it is an integral practice, as an interviewer, to have to actually see the truth in what they're saying, or see where they are coming from, understand where they are coming from. If I just judge, then it probably won't be a very interesting conversation to listen to. If I really challenge myself to get inside of where they are coming from and see the reality that they see and see the truth that they see, which again is an integral practice, to be able to hold what they believe and what they feel, then I will have grown myself, and I will be able to share a good story, and all of us will be able to see clearly where each other are coming from. Yeah.
And that is a fruit of integral consciousness, in the sense that that's not there for green. Green feels like, to the degree that you hold compassion for a white supremacist, for instance, you've somehow weakened yourself. Mm-hmm. You've weakened your argument. You can no longer resist, or something. There's something like that. It feels like a surrender.
That's actually why I added, since we're getting into this, and I love that you're interested in the term, that's why I added the promiscuous. I can be promiscuous. I can, and there are there definitely are places that I can't go yet.
Right.
I'm aware of that. And maybe I will choose never to go there, but I know that I'm not going there. Mm-hmm. I also like to say sometimes I'm so open-minded, I'm even willing to be closed-minded sometimes. Yeah. But, let me just be aware of my closed-mindedness and just be forthcoming about it.
Yeah, there's places I can't go, and I don't want to go. Yeah, it's like an animal abuser, that sort of thing. next lifetime, maybe.
Mhm.
But I don't even want to this time.
Yeah, and it's good to, it's that, like, that is okay. That is also you, allowing yourself to be blue, or, like allowing
Exactly.
yourself to say, like, yeah, I
This is where
refuse.
I am
Yeah.
on this
I
growth thing. I mean, I know that I'm heading for complete enlightenment and ultimate compassion. I do, but in due time, I can't make myself move from 9 years old to 12 years old just
Mhm.
because I want to, or whatever, however
Right.
you,
But there's a
growth
difference
is growth.
between saying I won't go there because no one should ever go there, and going there is the wrong way to be, and just saying I won't go there because I don't want to, because it
Yeah,
doesn't serve me, or it doesn't serve other people, or it's not part of my evolving process right now. Yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, let's look at some of what you've done. You have a couple excerpts, I guess, to play for us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so why don't you introduce us to the first one and set it up for us?
Um, oh, great. Should I say a little more about what Reckonings is, or just?
Oh, well, this will illuminate it, and then we can
Okay.
continue to
All
talk
right.
about
Let's
it.
let's just take a listen.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I will just say, as by way of a tiny bit of context. So there is a ton I could say about what. So yes, Reckonings comes from the idea. Well, yeah, maybe I will give a tiny bit of
Oh,
Reckonings comes
please.
from the idea that um, change in the world happens inside of people, which begs the question, how do people change? How do people actually change their worldviews and overcome racism and homophobia and recover from addiction? And so Reckonings has featured anything from, deeply conservative congressmen who made a dramatic shift on climate change, all the way to, like you said, a white supremacist who transcended a life of hate and became a force for nonviolence, all the way to, and we'll hear this today, two teenagers who managed to overcome bullying. And so it's a pretty diverse cast of characters, but the through line is really an exploration of the question, how do people change? And I would say specifically, and this is something I'm not explicit about in the way that I describe the show, but I can say to all of us who are listening, is the kind of change that I really am specifically interested in is a leap from first tier to second tier. And I say that I kind of want to, like, hedge that a little, because I don't mean to say that in every episode all of the guests have evolution is messy, but this isn't about one dogmatic position to another dogmatic position, but from from certainty to uncertainty, or from I have it all figured out to maybe I don't, from being kind of attached to my way of being, to feeling free to reflect on my way of being and be critical of my way of being, and consciously change my way of being to adapt to the reality around me. And so, and I would say that even just the process of reckoning, what I'm asking my guests to do, is in and of itself a bit of a second tier capacity. Once I'm not so attached to my ego, I don't need to get defensive about a thing that I did, because that's all it is. It's just a thing that I did, and not the overarching everything that I am.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of see the way that I've changed, and hold it, and admire it, and tug at it, and explore it, and move on. And so,
Well, it's what you're saying is such a beautiful textbook explanation of just what are the driving engines of evolution. And that is that we move from seeing ourselves as the subject to seeing ourselves as the object. So I'm able to reflect, as you put it, you said, I'm able to reflect on my way of being instead of just being it. And that is moving into a witness consciousness. That
yes.
is just the nature. We just continue to do that. We'll continue to do that for God knows how long.
Yes.
Or everything or something. But
Yeah.
that is indeed God's work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that you see it that way. Wow. Thank you. And since you're picking up on that, I mean, the organizing principle that I use to describe the things that I make as a collective liberation artist is that of a mirror. I am making things that hold up a mirror that enable us to see ourselves more clearly, because I trust in our capacity to grow if only we can just see ourselves clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't even have to try. We just have to see.
Yeah.
It's really something.
The witness, exactly. Yep. Yeah. And I do have that question about, and then we'll do the excerpts, but just I do have that question about the spiral, and like it, it can, in the same way that biofeedback allows us to, by seeing, our bodily functions, allows us to kind of consciously change our bodily functions. I do wonder, and I do wonder if there is something similar to be said about, let's call it sociofeedback, where if more of us were aware of, knew about, could see the spiral, the way that we are evolving, could we not skip colors, not like get there faster, but just evolve in a more, quite simply, just joyous and fun way? Like, if we just kind of knew a little more about what we were going through, could we evolve in an easier and more fun, less painful
Well,
way?
That's, I think, again, a beautiful inquiry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, yeah, let's take a listen. So yeah, there's a ton I could say about what I have learned about what moves people to change. Although my very unscientific exploration of the topic, because the sample size is not enormous, but I will say I have learned. I feel like I have seen quite a bit, and I would say the way that people change falls into, I could just kind of put it into two main categories. One entire category, back to the mirror, is just seeing ourselves more clearly, just someone else holding up a mirror, or the person themselves looking in the mirror, and that being what moves them to change. And the other category is seeing the other more clearly, and the other being whoever it is that you are most impacting by the way that you are. So I
love that. Simple. Seeing yourself more clearly, seeing the other more clearly.
Very simple. So the first clip I will play is a case of seeing ourselves more clearly, and this is his name is the young man named Joe Lindsley, who was the protege of the late Fox News chairman Roger Ailes. He became very close with Roger and his wife Elizabeth. He kind of became somewhat of a surrogate son to them. He lived with them for a while, and then had a bit of a crisis of conscience and made a very dramatic departure from that relationship. And Roger Ailes had told Joe's dad, this person's dad, that Roger is saying this, that he had never met anyone more like him than Joe.
Oh, and interesting.
So this is Joe.
So this is your interview with Joe.
Now you will hear Joe kind of seeing himself clearly, seeing what it was about him that Roger saw as similar to himself.
Okay. And this is about a 3.5 minute excerpt, you said.
Yeah.
For 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to share screen. Let's see. Now it's not showing me the SoundCloud, but I guess I'll just do desktop. Can you see?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's.
At that point, I had never taken the time to examine why it was that Ailes said he had never met anyone more like him than me. All day, you can surround yourself with your enemies, perceived as real, and that keeps you occupied. Everything is an occasion for a crisis, a confrontation, an argument. We could have sat around and said, okay, we don't like Obama's policies. We think they're very bad. But instead, Obama, we thought he was evil and conniving and was going to become a tyrant who would never give up power. And it made us feel like heroes. It gave an importance to our lives. Everything was tinged by, the potential threats. Even when Ailes and his family and I were at the Olive Garden, which we enjoyed because it was all-you-can-eat breadsticks, we assumed that, Frank and Irma at the table next door might be listening to us, or might be assassins. My whole idea of journalism was couched in confrontation. Everything was a battle between, what we saw as good and what we saw as evil, because that's how we saw the whole world. I knew there was something missing. I knew that the course that Ailes and I were on was not, it seemed glorious, but deep down we knew that there was this isolation and sadness. That's part of the reason why, you make the president out to be, this sinister, figure out of a James Bond, story, because you can focus on that rather than on your own unhappiness. And so you fill your life with this extra drama and activity so you don't have to think about or address the unhappiness. That sadness, it has a power over you when you don't address it and just acknowledge it. I realized that this is the deepest way how Ailes and I were most alike. I felt very close to God in that moment when I just yelled. While it might seem sort of sacrilegious, that was my soul being somehow forcing its way into honesty. The next step is I have to write this story. I need to write this truthfully, unvarnished.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is what a reckoning sounds like.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised at the amount of vilification that Ailes had for Obama. I think I knew that theoretically, but to hear it actually expressed that he was sinister, that he wanted to be a tyrant, that it's this great battle of good and evil, this glory thing, that's all very, from integral speak, traditionalist amber. There's a right, there's a wrong, there's a good, there's an evil, and the shades of gray is not really what they do. Mm-hmm. So people really are at that. They live in that world space, and They're fighting an enemy.
Yes.
And as he said, he said that he knew that there was some sadness underneath all that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's how all people at that stage feel, but I know when you're ready to leave it, that's how it feels. Uh-huh. It starts feeling like this is a thin gruel. This isn't enough. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happened to this Joe guy. Joe, what's his name?
Joe Lindsley. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Joe Lindsley. So, wow. So how was that to talk to him?
It's always, I end up a little bit, I've never told any of my guests this, but I end up a little bit kind of falling in love with all of them, because it's just so, because it's always, it's beautiful. It's beautiful that they have been able to change, that they are able to talk about their change, that they are able to just kind of sit in it and not even entirely understand it all the time, and share it. And it's, and I guess the other thing I can say is, we all know the saying, hurt people. And so we might be able to guess, that Roger Ailes was a hurting person, But to actually see what that looks like a little bit on the inside, and just going back to the what we were talking about earlier, like once you adopt their reality for a second, and if you really kind of take seriously that they thought that Obama, they thought he was mobilizing the TSA as a secret army to keep himself in power indefinitely. And if you get inside of that, and that sounds like a really scary world to live inside.
If you really believed that, you would be absolutely called to action.
Yes, exactly.
If that were true, you would be unpatriotic, you would be inhumane.
Exactly. And it starts to make sense of the kinds of things that they do. And again, it goes back to the white supremacists. I don't have compassion for what they do, but I perhaps can find compassion for why they did it.
Yeah.
There is, and then there's also the, and I can also hold at the same time people accountable for not challenging themselves. That is something that I can also hold to. Compassion for where they are coming from, and a little bit of, whatever it would, I don't know what the word would be, but accountability to the way that you are, to challenging the way that you are, to pressure testing the way that you are.
Yeah, right on. And at some point, fighting, resisting. I cannot hate somebody. I can understand that they actually think they're doing good, but resist them, if I don't, and, see the dangers of that. And one of the things I sort of advocate for in the Daily Evolver is the culture war, is that one of the nature of evolution is that we do fight our way forward. And as long as we can do it without real sticks and stones, but just character assassination, that's progress.
Right.
So we need to be in the arena.
Right. And the fact that so many of us want to be in the arena. I mean, sometimes I feel like, I wonder if the problem and the solution is that we all want to be heroes. Like if the problem here was that they wanted to be heroes, maybe that's not so, like, there's a lot of heroic things that need to be done. If you want to be a hero, we can give you a way to do that.
Yeah.
Like the fact that that's something that you want is both the problem and the solution in a way.
No, it's true. And it actually sort of, I mean, even you saying that, I feel my heart swell a little bit in compassion, because all of these people who I think are batshit fucking crazy and dangerous are actually looking to be heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So so that's a cool one. You got another one for us?
Yes. So this second one is, the second category, a case of seeing the other more clearly. This is Holly. She, a teenager in high school, and a bully. And she has an experience with Challenge Day, which is this amazing anti-bullying workshop. It's actually so much more than that. But in this context, they go to schools all over the country, actually all over the world, and they host these all-day workshops where it starts with fun and games, and then they really just get students into their hearts and just speaking honestly from their hearts. And she was able to bear witness to the impact that she was having on other people. And so you're going to hear the same music because I've had to depend on the kindness of musicians who are willing to share their music with me for free. But as Reckonings grows, I'm looking to grow our musical repertoire. But just warning you on that. So, all right. Oh, share screen.
Make sure those two boxes are checked.
I did. Yeah, I hope. Yes, they are.
I'll know. I'll hear it.
Oh, but I didn't. Now I can't actually see. Hold on. Let me bring up this. Okay. Okay. So now.
Challenge Day, it just showed me how you never know what somebody is going through. But I seen like their reactions and stuff, and it just made me think like, that's not how I want to affect people. I don't want to leave that effect on nobody. That's not what I want to do. And it really, like, I don't know, it did something to me, because when I like was there, I was crying, but when I went home, like, I really locked myself in the bathroom, and I was really crying because I started thinking about, like, I've done all of this stuff that I can't take back. But then I started thinking, like, I really want to change myself. I can't, like, take what I did back. Just move on and try to better myself.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. So nice.
That's amazing. That's just, it's very touching, very heartbreaking in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, and so impressive. I mean, she was, I think, like 16.
Uh-huh. You're sounding a little faint, Stephanie. Are you close or on, or?
I didn't change anything, but let me, I don't know. Did I sound less?
You sound better. You're better now.
Oh, I'm just leaning in a little bit more.
Yeah,
okay.
that could be.
I can stay here.
Yeah, no, it's and it's such an example of what we were talking about earlier, and that is just being able to see oneself. So she goes to this workshop, and as she says, she's able to see the reactions of the people that she's been hurting. And this gets to a principle that I think is really an important spiritual principle that one of my favorite teachers, Trungpa Rinpoche here in Boulder, he's dead now, but he was one of the Tibetan monks who brought Tibetan Buddhism to the West. And one of his principles is the idea of basic goodness. And that human beings have a basic goodness. That once they see something, to see is to care. You know, and that's sort of automatic, that we actually want to be good by what we're able to see.
Yeah.
And that's different than the idea of human beings being fallen and evil that comes out of the Christian tradition.
Right.
And I think evolution would show us that the idea of basic goodness, that we are growing to goodness overall, with all kinds of wrong turns and dead ends and bumps and grinds. But overall, we're growing to goodness, is seen in all of our individual lives too, and just so beautifully transmitted by this girl. Yeah,
I love that. I completely believe that. And I believe it actually feels better. It just is more fun to live there, to come.
Oh yeah, instead of thinking, the world's going to hell and we're all blew it and we drove it into a ditch and we all have to be punished, and Jesus Lord.
Yeah. I absolutely believe. Well, and I will say, and this, I am very much seeing people's basic goodness in all of these stories, and so I would say, and I started the show before the 2016 election, but definitely Reckonings has allowed me to maintain my capacity in people's basic goodness at an otherwise challenging time.
I know.
Yeah, because I absolutely believe that. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to hold on to that. I like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, you have one more for us, right?
So yes, last clip is really just, I would say, just a really sweet articulation of integral thinking. This is Jerry Taylor. He is the only paid climate skeptic who has ever flipped. He was the head of the Cato Institute's Climate and Environmental Policy Shop, and he was kind of a leading spokesperson for climate skepticism, which means he was that guy, like on CNN and NBC and Fox, kind of waging battle against climate activists. And as you will see just by hearing him speak, he's very persuasive. He's a very effective communicator. So he was very effective in that role. And here he just kind of gives a really nice, and I would say integral, even though he doesn't use that term, but a really nice articulation of how we might relate to our beliefs, our worldview.
And this is, you say, about a minute. And what's the gent's name?
His name is Jerry Taylor.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. So, share screen. Okay. Okay. Oops. Ah. Okay.
One of the most useful witticisms that I've come across was from C.K. Chesterton, who cautioned against the person of the one book, the person who might read Atlas Shrugged or, name a book that is all of the political rage in certain communities, and then they become militant on this. And so Chesterton argued against the person who reads the one book because they will invariably find themselves in a well-lit prison cell, in a well-lit intellectual prison cell that they can't escape from. And when we find ourselves using our engines of motivated cognition to stay within the tribe and to constantly police ourselves against the possibility of being tempted by heretical thoughts and uncomfortable observations about reality, what we're really doing is arming our inner policemen to keep watch on this penitentiary that we voluntarily locked ourselves into. And one of the reasons why it's been an incredibly invigorating thing for me to be at the Niskanen Center and to have the people around me that I have around me is that it's an incredibly invigorating thing to not be in a penitentiary anymore, to not be in an ideological penitentiary or some sort of tribal penitentiary. And I fear that too many people, not just in climate skepticism, and not just on the right, but on the left as well, because they are captured by these dogmatic and ideological loyalties, that they are, in a sense, locking themselves in a rather exhausting jail cell. And they would be far better to let these things go and to think with open minds.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really well put, and such a beautiful transmission of this idea of growing out of a particular ideology. It starts to feel like a prison cell.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to feel like you're, again, to use the 9-year-old and the 12-year-old, it's like you're still trying to wear the same shoes at 12 that you had on at 9.
Right.
And they
Right.
just are killing you.
Right. And for a lot of these people, they just come to this through experience. It's really nice. If they come to this, again, it's not the shift from one position to another, but from relating to my views in a particular way, in like a fearful way, to being free, like he just said, being free to think with open minds. And it's just, it's so fun. Me, I get nerdy on integral theory and excited about it. And it's just fun to watch these people kind of just come to this way of being very intuitively just through their own experience. I mean, just the episode that I'm working on now, I've been so refreshed. I'm weaving together the stories of a former jihadi extremist and a former white supremacist, and it's really just, it's like they could have gone in either direction, any direction. They just needed something, and so it's interesting that it's kind of powerful to weave their stories together. But both of them have this. It just made me laugh that when I asked, I don't know what question I asked, something about like what they're up to today or who they are today or something, and both of them have such this like non-ego, like the former white supremacist, and I hate to call him that, but he said something like, he was like, I'm a hockey coach that cares about equality. And then he was like, I don't even know what, I don't know what I know that I have a propensity for alcoholism and drug addiction. So I need to stay sober. I know that. That's like the one thing he could just like, the one concrete perhaps thing, it's like, how great. Like you clearly are not particularly attached to, like you now see yourself as just an evolving being.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you find these people?
So I have a long and seemingly never-ending list of stories I want. It's like I want someone who changed on gun control, or I want whatever it is that I'm looking for. I want Al Franken to call me. But so once I know what I'm looking for, it's really just a matter of, you know, then it's what organization or what friend of mine or what person, and really a lot of it is, you know, the self-publishing revolution has been a boon, because I can just Google, you know, regrets of a former ex or confessions of a former ex, and I used to be X, you know, and X could be white supremacist, bully, you know, perpetrator of sexual violence, whatever, and someone has, yeah, you got the Medium post or the Reddit post. I mean, for a lot of people, and this is also why I think a lot of people are really willing to talk to me, for a lot of people, sharing their story is a part of their transformation process, a part of their healing process. So a lot of people are really already sharing their stories online. But really, I mean, the question is, you know, what am I looking for? And then from there, it's just a matter of, you know, figuring out how.
So you go and find them, basically.
Yeah.
And how often are you putting out new podcasts these days?
Oh, not as often as I want.
You have quite a repertoire there, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of the issues of the day, you pretty much have a podcast on all of them.
Yeah.
You know, or at least a lot of them.
Yeah. I guess I just feel like there's so many more I want to do. I
cool.
mean, I want to do, you know, Me Too. I want a perpetrator of sexual violence and the person that he impacted, that, you know, that have had a restorative justice process, to share and showcase and model how they managed to heal through sexual violence in a way that achieved healing and justice for both of them. You know, I want one of these tech leaders, one of these, you know, ex-Facebook executives who now doesn't let his kids use Facebook. You know, maybe I'm thinking where there's so many I want, but yes, have covered some good ground, and they come out every month to 2 months. I am hoping, praying, my dream come true would be I want to hire I want a team. Yeah, because I'd love to be putting out more often. It feels like we are in a moment right now. We are reckoning with sexual harassment and sexual violence. We are reckoning with, we're reckoning with technology. We are reckoning with the guns. We are reckoning with all, you know, it just feels like, and maybe we always feel this way, but I do feel like we are in a moment of reckoning right now. The moment is ripe, and I want a team to really meet the moment.
Right on.
Yeah.
So if people want to hear more, they go to Reckonings, plural?
Reckonings, plural, yeah.
Yeah, reckoningsplural.com.
Reckonings.show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, reckonings.show. Couldn't get .com. I actually am not sure if it's on .com. I should check that out. I wonder.
Yeah.
But yeah, reckonings.show, and then from there, you can find, you know, however you choose to get your podcasts. Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your work and your passion. And like I said, I think you're doing God's work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Helping us to find that multi-perspectival, that move, that updraft that takes us into bigger territory. And hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah. Amen. Amen. Good to be on the same team.
Indeed.
With you and with all of you listening. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Bye.